reactions. And then the reaction feature is also where you can react to what you're hearing. And it's also another option for raising your hand. All of the questions that are asked today will be recorded and the answers will be provided in the FAQ document that you will all have access to in the procurement portal.
Hold on, Anish, am I sharing the right screen? Sorry, I have multiple screens open and it's not telling me which screen I'm sharing. Are you seeing the full presentation or the notes slide?
No, I'm seeing the full presentation.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Sorry, it looked like there was a red bar around the presentation one. And so I was like, I'm sharing the wrong screen. Okay, thanks.
No, we're good.
Okay, sorry about that.
We can go to the next slide. Here's our agenda for today's conference. We'll provide a brief overview of the Air District and the Spare the Air resource teams. And then we'll go over the Air District's request for proposals and wrap up with a Q&A session. Next slide. So let me quickly provide an overview of the Air District. The Bay Area Air Quality Management District was the first regional air quality control agency in the nation. We were established in 1955. We are one of 35 air districts in California, and we encompass the 9 counties around the Bay Area and represent approximately 7 million residents in our jurisdiction. We encompass the 9, we report to a 24-member board of elected officials, and our mission is to create a healthy breathing environment for every Bay Area resident while protecting and improving public health, air quality, and the global climate. Next slide. So in some background and history of the Spare the Air resource teams, in 1991, the Air District launched the Spare the Air program, which was a public education campaign aimed at promoting clean air. A key component of the Spare the Air program included locally based resource teams. There are currently 9 resource teams throughout the Bay Area, and they're listed here on this slide. The composition of the resource teams has varied and has included, among others, individuals from local businesses, public agencies, environmental groups, residents, and civic organizations. Traditionally, members of the Air District Board of Directors and or their staff also have participated or currently participate on the resource teams. Team members provide resources such as time, their expertise, and in-kind support to implement projects to help meet the Air District's mission at the local level. The resource teams also help address the air quality concerns unique to the diverse communities and neighborhoods that make up the Bay Area. Resource teams meet regularly to achieve specific goals, such as disseminating air quality related information to residents, providing feedback and input on Air District strategies and programs, and facilitating and implementing projects that will reduce air pollution within the community. Now I'll hand this over to my colleague, Kristen, who will go through the next few slides.
I thought this one was you, Anish, but I'm happy to take this one on. I don't have my notes in front of me. It's the problem with the screen share.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. Do you want to take it or do you want me to?
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. So, hi, welcome everyone. I'm Kristen. I'm with the Community Engagement Office along with Anish. And so some of you may be aware of the Spare the Air resource teams, and Anish just kind of went over their history. This last summer, our board committee, the Community Health, Equity, and Justice Board Committee, directed the Air District to sort of refocus the Spare the Air outreach programs on, to better align with the overall district's equity and environmental justice goals. And so what this means for the Spare the Air resource teams is that, now the work that they're doing, and we'll talk about that in a second, needs to focus on or benefit environmental justice communities. And this is because we know that these communities are disproportionately impacted by poor air quality. And a lot of that has to do with, racist policy, land use decisions, and many other issues. And so, we're wanting to align a lot of our programs, the Spare the Air resource teams being one of them, to better improve local air quality for environmental justice communities. So in the RFP, you'll see that there are essentially two ways that we are defining environmental justice communities. One is if they're a community that's either been designated as an Assembly Bill 617 community or awaiting designation, and there's a list of what those communities are in the RFP. Or if they're a project that is based in a community that has an overall burden score of 70 to 100 in CalEnviroScreen 4.0. And there's a link to that in the RFP, as well as on the slides. I put a link in the chat to where you can find the meeting materials. But just kind of really quickly, this box on the right side of the slide shows the Bay Area Air Quality Management District's jurisdiction. That's the black boundary, and then the pink areas inside are essentially those communities that kind of pop on CalEnviroScreen 4.0. Napa County is the only exception here, and you can see page 4 in the RFP for more details about that. But Napa County, when you use these kinds of screening tools, they do have their limitations, and so there is no community that is that receives a score of 70 to 100 in CalEnviroScreen. However, there is a resource team in Napa, and so we didn't want to eliminate the opportunity for Napa County to continue to have a resource team, but that resource team will need to use some different tools for identifying the EJ community. So, in addition to sort of refocusing on equity and environmental justice, we went back to sort of the roots of the resource teams and the funding that funds these resource teams. And if one of my colleagues can quickly, I can't remember what page it is, but I do know that there's a link in our RFP to where the TFCA funding requirements are. If you can just find that and pop it in the chat, that would be great. But so the Spare the Air outreach programs and the resource teams are funded through TFCA. And one of my colleagues will plop that link into the chat for us shortly, so you can learn more about that, but it's also in the RFP. And essentially that requires that the resource teams demonstrate a reduction in emissions from mobile sources. So it's a little different than a lot of the other air district work that we do, which is focused on stationary sources. This has to reduce emissions from mobile sources, so vehicles. So there are two ways that resource teams can do that. One is they can partner with the air district to improve our outreach and accessibility of incentive programs, specifically in environmental justice communities. So, we have our strategic incentives division, we have our TIO technology implementation office, who have a lot of great incentives and are looking for assistance in doing outreach in those communities. And then a resource team can also, separate from the air district's incentive programs, a resource team can identify culturally relevant ways to reduce mobile sources of pollution in environmental justice communities. So that could look like any number of things that, reduces vehicle miles traveled, that improves infrastructure for like cycling or what have you. So how can we get people out of cars or improve EV type infrastructure. So, and thanks, the link was just plopped into the chat for TFCA. So what you all are probably interested in knowing is, what are we looking for in the consultants? So Anish talked a bit about what the resource team, the history of the resource teams. Well, we've worked with a consultant or two to help sort of convene the resource teams and sort of facilitate and convene and do recruitment for the resource teams. And so we're looking for organizations and individuals who are particularly experienced in supporting coalitions who can implement projects that influence behavior at the local level. So like I said, we're trying to get folks to reduce emissions from mobile sources at the community level. We're looking for folks who have specific experience engaging with environmental justice communities and advocates in those communities, experience working with low-income communities, communities with limited English proficiency, and communities of color. And like I said, building and maintaining coalitions. So we kind of see the resource teams as coalitions of folks. They're called resource teams. They've been around longer than I've been at the Air District, but they're called resource teams because the idea is that everybody's coming to the table with a resource to contribute. And so that's kind of what we mean by coalition. And then someone who can help foster innovative ideas, consensus building, and help move the coalition members from planning to action. And then the specifics in the RFP around the objectives and the work scope are sort of very high level outlined here. So we're looking for the contractors to establish and maintain this network of resource teams. And again, the resource teams are going to be focused on improving air quality in environmental justice communities throughout the Bay Area, specifically reducing emissions from mobile sources. So the work will look like convening the resource teams, recruiting members to the resource teams, providing quarterly updates to the Air District, managing the resource teams' budgets and scopes, and kind of working collaboratively with us at the Air District. It's very much a collaborative relationship. And then I think at this point, I hand it over to Michael Chow in our business office.
Thank you, Kristen. Hi, everyone. My name is Michael. I work in the business office, and I will be supporting the community engagement team on this RFP process. So when submitting or preparing your RFP, you would probably it'd be wise to take a look at the evaluation criteria that you see on the screen, and also detailed additionally in the RFP itself, and try to make sure it addresses these six criteria that the reviewers will be looking for when scoring the RFPs. I'll go over them really briefly. The first is expertise, and it's the related experience of the firm and personnel assigned to the RFP tasks, and the bidder's ability to perform and complete the work in a professional and timely manner. Their skills, the experience of the bidder, and in particular, experience working on projects of similar scope with government agencies, environmental justice communities, low-income communities, communities with limited English proficiency, and communities of color. The approach, and that's the extent to which they proposed the proposal meets the Air District's goal of establishing and maintaining a network of community-based resource teams to improve air quality and environmental justice communities throughout the Bay Area. Cost, basically the cost of or cost effectiveness of the resources and the allocation strategy. And outreach, the proposed plan to outreach and recruit team members. The outreach plan will be evaluated for effectiveness and the ability to reach team members with professional and lived experience with environmental justice communities, low-income communities, communities with limited English proficiency, and communities of color. And specialty, which is basically a little bit of preference given to local businesses or green businesses. I think that's it. Next slide, please. For this RFP, these are some important dates to keep in mind. The ones that are bolded are definitely the ones you should definitely pay attention to, including the questions due date, which is on March 3rd. This is an opportunity to submit questions through the portal for any kind of clarification or additional details that the RFP proposal itself isn't clear, or if you just are looking for some information that might help you put together a better proposal. At the 1 week following that due date, it will be the date when the community engagement team will respond to your questions on March 10th. And obviously the most important date is to make sure your proposals are due on March 18th by 4 p.m. So please submit your proposal by that date. Next slide, please. Yep, so I guess it's just a reiteration. Interested organizations and individuals must create an account through the Air District Procurement Portal, which is Bonfire, and view and download the RFP documents in Ninja to put together the proposal. That's all I got. Should I pass it back to you, Kristen? Or Anish?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I somehow accidentally went to hit to the next slide and it took me to the portal. So let me go back. In case you were curious what the portal looked like, then yeah, and I'll just, while I'm going back to the share screen, I'll just highlight that, you know, you definitely don't want to wait to the last minute because things always happen with technology. And you know, the 4 p.m. timeline is real. And because it's an online portal, it will not allow you to enter anything in at 4:01. So highly recommend. It's happened to people in the past and it breaks my heart every time. So definitely, you know, try to get in there with enough time to accommodate any potential technology glitches. And then with that, yeah, we'll just do questions and answers. I'll stop share for a minute and then open it up to gallery here so we can see everyone. Any questions? We did such a good job.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Hey, everybody, how's it going?
Hey.
So how much actual work do you anticipate this being? Like, is this like one FTE? You know, we're talking about multiple staff in terms of what's needed to deliver on this project. And then related to that, as far as the different roles that you, at least in terms of your prior experience, are we talking about, you know, needing a facilitator, note taker? I mean, what are there you know, particular roles that you think would be needed in thinking about, you know, the different folks when in assembling a team?
You want to take that one, Anish, since you work most closely with them these days?
Sure. Yeah, I'd say yes, definitely meeting facilitator, organizing, scheduling, setting up the meeting agendas, tracking tasks, note taking, and I would, yeah, definitely say that it's at least, at the very least, one full FTE.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
And also, I realized I didn't really offer an opportunity for introductions at the beginning. So in the chat, it would be helpful if everyone could maybe just put your name and the organization you represent, your contact information. That'd be helpful as well for us. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Well, if no one's going to speak up, I have another one.
Go for it.
So this is the first that I've seen this sort of green certified category. Can you speak to that? Like, what kind of green certifications are out there that you guys are looking for?
Michael, is that something you can answer?
Yes. So in the past, I think there is some kind of a green certification that, you know, that companies may or may not have. There are, you know, I think there's a process to get that kind of green certification. So I'm not sure many businesses will actually have this, but it is something that if you can demonstrate, a paperless process or something like that you might have, that your organization does adhere to, that can be like documented, or whether it's like through a certificate or something that, you know, whatever that may be, if you include that into your RFP, that will be considered for that particular portion of the scoring.
Yeah, I've seen folks attach a copy of a certification or something like that.
But there are no certifications that you guys know, just sort of top of mind.
I missed the question. What was that?
Oh, but there are no certifications that you guys know specifically.
Oh, no, nothing. Well, Michael, I don't want to answer for you. None that I've ever.
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think we've come across an issue with that. So I mean, if there is, yeah, if you do have a green certification from some, awarding entity, then I think you can put that into your proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Good questions, Chris. Thanks.
Also, Chris, just to go back to your previous question, just wanted to add also that with the refocusing of the Spare the Air resource teams, there may be some drop off from current members, and so recruitment will definitely add to will definitely be a component that would add to the time required of staff. At least initially.
Mhm. Any other questions? Okay, great. You can always post questions through the portal at this point. After the webinar, we will not be able to answer questions. We will either direct folks to Michael, and Michael will most likely direct you to the portal, or we'll just direct you directly to the portal to post your questions. We also are taking note of all the questions here today, and we will be posting those on the portal. And so the idea is that everyone will have access to the same information, the same questions and responses. Okay, well, this went fast. So yeah, please, reach out if, post into the portal if you have questions specific to the RFP, if you have issues with the portal. I think Michael or someone from the business office would be able to help. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for your interest.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, all.
Bye.
Okay, stop recording.